Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Love is Patient.
I'm back. She let me
Listen
come
here,
back.
he's back. I need him back. We need to talk about some things. So, thank you for joining us this morning. We are continuing our discussion on the courage to love
Courage to love.
again. The courage to love again. And we have so far talked about courageous conversations, having those hard conversations. We've talked about communing together. We've talked about even continuing. Last week we had a couple on. They told their beautiful love story about continuing. So we also discussed collecting yourself after those hard conversations to get yourself back in the notion of getting on that journey back to loving again. So this week, and for probably 4 or 5 weeks after this, we're going to talk about courageous endurance.
Mhm.
Courageous endurance. The courage to endure. The courage to bear through an unpleasant process or experience. What does it take to do that? What does
I think
it take
that's
to do that?
the whole discussion of endurance connected to love. I think is very courageous of you to even get into that dialogue, because very rarely are these two words connected, love and endurance. But I think love endureth all things.
It does.
And I think that
Wow.
a great deal of the definition or the biblical scripture about that is not really discussed of how do you endure. And most people say, I'm in love, I love you forever, and that, yes. But love that's not tested, that does not know how to endure. Right? The race is not given to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but to he that what? Endures to the end. So endurance is an essential part of the theology of God and the existence of God. So if God is love,
yes,
right, then there obviously he expects us to be like him, and like him, we must be able to endure. Now, here's a part that becomes overwhelming that is very rarely discussed, and we can start it here. Christ had to agree to endure, to be under the pressure of the cross.
Absolutely.
For love.
Yes.
Not just assignment.
Right.
It's an actual love affair. It's a love affair. And part of his assignment was being able to endure, which I think is why the Lord's ministry began the way it did. It began, this is my beloved son whom I'm well pleased. That's first miracle courses.
Right.
But I think that immediately after the Lord established his relationship that this is my beloved son, the first thing he makes him go through is the wilderness. A process of endurance. A wilderness experience where you're not eating, and then you're going to have to what? Endure. Like, why? Because I need to make sure that this love that you have for me can endure what? Tests.
Right.
Trials.
Right. And we don't think a lot about that. You're right. When you're talking about this love affair that you're in, whether it be man or woman, whether it be a mother-daughter type of thing, father-son type of thing, whatever the relationship may be. When you're talking about loving someone, you don't always think about the tests and the trials, but that's an integral part of that relationship. Tests and trials. You know, when you go throughout life, because we're living in an imperfect world, and because we are imperfect people, we're going to go through some things. We're going to go through some things. We don't live in a bubble.
You can't.
We don't live in a bubble.
It doesn't exist.
Right. It does not exist.
Relationships don't exist in a bubble.
No.
Family doesn't. Anything worth having or successful has to go through something. And I think part of the challenge of this love that endures is understanding the responsibility of one individual while the other person may not be responsible. Endurance is not just the two of us loving and fighting. You and I against the world is easy. That's a love that can draw a couple together. Endurance to love and endurance to go through together. It's us against the world. That's a very powerful type of love where no one believes in it or no one supports it, or you're fighting for your love. There becomes another level of love and the courage to have it, to endure when one person is not as committed or responsible to the responsibilities of love. So that you're looking at a situation where a Christ, like, he loves us so much. While we were yet sinners, he dies
He
for
died.
us, right?
Right.
So that's an endurance that he's dying for us. Who's he dying for? The ones that pulled his beard, the ones that ridiculed him, the ones that
Didn't believe in him.
did not believe in him. And sometimes the courage to endure is loving someone that doesn't believe you love them. Like, I'm going to stand by you. Or sometimes in relationships, we can
Good.
almost sabotage the marriage because of past situations, past relationships, or family issues where you don't really love me or you don't believe in me, where that other person or the other spouse has to say, no, I'm going to commit myself and have the courage to endure, watch this, your doubt of my love. You know, and
That's a
where
big
you don't,
test,
where
yes.
you're not, where I'm loving you up at a level you're not at yet. But it's okay. I'm going to endure the shortage or the lack that you may have. And that's a courage to
Yes.
endure it. And we can see it in drastic situations. Someone is in love with a spouse that is on drugs or dealing with alcoholism
Right.
or dealing with medical issues. You know,
That's
oh
a
my
big
God,
one.
that's great. Wow, this guy stood by her life and
Right.
he went through her through all the surgeries. Like, oh, this is great. But yeah, but okay, but do you have the endurance and the courage to love someone and endure someone that is not healthy as it relates to a work ethic? Like, oh my God, you're so lazy. Because it doesn't have to be something. It doesn't have to be something
Major.
major.
Yeah,
It could be
yeah, yeah,
something just your work ethic and you're committed and you're hardworking. And this person is just like, oh, I don't do all that. And you're sitting there as a spouse, and you're doing all the chores. You're cleaning up the house. You're maintaining the house, and you're trying to get everyone to do their chores, feel they're part of the responsibility, buy
yes.
into it. See, the courage to endure is not just something that's life ending or detrimental. It may be something as major, or something that's just of work ethic, doing your part,
Good.
getting someone to endure through, oh my goodness, why are you using my toothbrush? Like, oh, this is so, like, wait, you can, all types of things.
Small, yes.
It's seemingly small, but it's very offensive to someone
Right.
that you have to endure that until you can get the other spouse to be responsible enough to understand that's not your title.
Offensive, yes.
That's offensive. And I'm enduring it, which could be a very, it may seem minuscule to somebody or trivial, but really it comes, this endurance and the love and the courage to endure, and on many different levels in different areas
Many different
that affect
levels.
the marriage.
Yes. Yes, I'm glad that you brought that point up. To endure through hardships is one thing. To endure through something together is yet another thing. And then to endure through someone else's dysfunction or someone else's training. When you go back to childhood, everybody's been trained differently. But it's not until you live with that person.
It's real.
And it's not until you interact with that person that you really find out, oh my God, they're dead serious about how they're living, or they're very serious about the way that they're going about something that, you know, you may have been trained differently on.
Right.
And we've been through so many of those things. But the fact that you are enduring through that, endurance means that you will not quit. Endurance means that you have mustered up the strength and you're going to bear through in everything. Everything that you're going to encounter, will encounter, shall encounter, are encountering, you're going to endure through it. And in this day and time where everything is, you know, set up like it's an option. You have an option. Oh, you don't have to take that. You have an option to do A, B, or C. And I'm not against divorces. I'm not against separations. I'm not against some things that come along that you have to make those decisions. But to have those options set out before you like a buffet, in a like a buffet style, I think is unacceptable. And if you've committed to something, you have to find the wherewithal. That's what we're talking about. How do you find that? How do you endure? How do you abide under a load? That's what it means in the Greek.
Mhm.
In the Greek, when I studied the word, it means to abide under a pressure. When you do abide under that pressure, then you get the strength. Then you get the strength to go through.
And I think
Um,
that's key. And I think you also not just mentioning that or blowing over that,
mhm.
that's very real. And that's just as you mentioned, like weights and building, you don't just start bench pressing 250.
Mm.
Right? You
Come
has to be
on,
something
that's right.
that you the resistance training or you're under a bench. You got to get to that level, and just encouraging newlyweds in
Hmm.
particular. And my father's correct, and I believe in. I teach it and share it in our marriage counseling classes. It takes 10 years for marriage to be solidified. The first 5 years is
Getting to know.
really getting to know each
Yeah.
other and then going through all that, and then the next 5 years is what I would say. That's where the endurance begins, where you're
Mm.
trying to now. How do I live with what I've just seen? How do I live with what I just met? And I think that honeymoon period is a very dangerous time
Hmm.
because it's not real.
It's
Engagement
not
isn't
real.
real, and I always say it. No matter how many times I counsel individuals, like this person's on their best behavior, and it's not deception or deceit. Or if I would have known this, I would have never gotten married. Like no, I think there's certain
No way you could know.
there's no way you can
To
know.
everything.
And I remember on so many levels different things that worked out significantly for us in the beginning of our marriage
Hmm.
because there was so much communication. We talked about so many
Yes,
different
that's
things.
true.
Worst case scenarios, things that weren't comfortable. We talked about it before the marriage, which gave us a better insight into each other. And well, for many, I know you said you don't have a problem with separation, divorce, other things. I think many divorce is already the option. People walk in the door like,
Mhm.
well, this is a deal breaker, or I'm not going to have this because I've seen my whole life. I saw this happen to my mother. I saw this happen to my aunt,
Mhm.
or I've seen this in other marriages and I don't want it. I think that's you're walking in the door, kind of
It's an
saying,
option.
I'm not going to endure this, not
Hmm.
realizing, where and what happens in situations or in life that is extremely overwhelming. That I would dare to say, or even suggest, marriage is endurance. A great deal of a marriage, or those that have a testimony of years, will tell you not how much they loved. Here it is.
Hmm.
They'll tell you how much they endured.
Yes.
How much? Oh, I'm not gonna have this. I'm not gonna take that. I'm not gonna. Okay, that's easy. That's dating. That's nice. But you'll see. And well, this is my money and your money, and we're gonna go half and half. Okay, that sounds nice until there's only one money, one set of money,
One pot.
one set of monies, one piece of something coming in,
Right.
and you find out, wow. Or what I love, you have two amazing checks coming in, and they're not enough.
Mhm.
Right? How do you endure when you're looking at that and oh, perfect. This is a great example. Enduring a second job. See, people never discuss and have those dialogues. Like, there's a shortage, and your needs emotionally or what you want from your spouse
Mhm.
and may not necessarily work in that season of the marriage because the two of us combined are not making enough money and I may need to pick up another job. I may
Mhm.
need to do additional work, which means that's going to cut into your world
Right.
of seeing me. So you have to endure what? Absence.
You have to endure through that
Yeah,
particular season.
yeah. You got,
And it's all a part of it.
and that's all
It's
part of it.
all
Where
a
you're
part of
where
it.
you're
Right.
adjusting to, and you're talking about endurance. I had to endure you going back to school.
Right.
And that's very real. Oh, I got you, baby. Go on, baby, going back to school. Like, no, it sounded nice in concept
Mhm.
until I looked up and realized that didn't just mean you're going to class
Right.
and you're not going to be, I got to watch kids. It also means, well, after class, I have homework, which means,
Less
yeah,
time for
there's gonna be
us.
less time for us,
Yeah.
and I have to endure the less time. I
Mhm.
have to be able to embrace, oh, right now I'm not going to see you, or right now I'm going to be doing the cooking and the cleaning, and I'm going to put the kids to bed. And when you get home, right, you're not going to be affectionate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired from class. I don't
Right.
want to. So I have to indoor rather, not having that affection. I
Absolutely.
have to endure being single, even though I'm married. Oh, no way, no way. Yeah, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because my schedule, my preaching dates require me to be on a plane somewhere else. You have to endure that. And see there,
And then there's another side to that endurance.
yes,
Because the travel
yes,
takes you away
takes you away.
and leaves me almost thinking that I'm or feeling that I'm
Yes,
single
you're
because
living.
of the heavy travel. So both sides
Imagine,
have to endure.
imagine that. Imagine what the NBA children and spouses felt
Mhm.
when the NBA was in a bubble. And they had
Oh,
to
yeah.
agree to
Had
be
to.
like, well, I'm
Right.
going to play, but we're going to, in order for us to play,
Mhm.
we're not going to have this interaction with our family. Like that is such a huge sacrifice. And I think in many ways, people look at situations or idolize relationships and not understand the
What
courage
goes
to
on
endure.
behind.
Like, yeah, so what does it mean for you to be married to Denzel Washington?
Mm.
And the movie is remote for
Months,
months.
months and months. Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's
There's a price. There's a price to pay.
yes.
A load to endure under.
Hmm. Yes.
Okay, to abide under. So these are some of the subjects that we will be talking about this month.
That's
The
great.
courage to endure. And all of that is leading to the fact that I want those that will consider to really think about loving again.
Hmm.
I'm not just talking about those that may have had a separation or a divorce or a breach in their relationship. I'm talking about those even that are in relationships that have all these walls up, that have these protective walls up that I'm not going to expose myself in certain areas because I've been hurt there.
Okay.
And so, talking about, we were talking about so many different things, conversing about it, sharing space and time together. Um, that was all under communing. And, just talking about different aspects of the relationship, trying to go back into and considering going back into an area where you're vulnerable again, where you're really allowing that person to love you and for you, giving space for you to love that person. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. But I would like somebody out there is considering loving again and doesn't think that it makes sense in terms of guarding their heart, doesn't feel like it makes sense because of what has transpired in the past. And I am asking them to consider loving again. Loving again. And this month we're just going to talk about endurance. What does that mean? You gave some great examples tonight. But what does that mean to endure, to bear through an unpleasant situation? Thinking and considering that you are in a process. You don't know quite where you are in that process, but you're in a process. And if you can endure to the end, there are some blessings on the other side.
Well,
As we saw last week,
absolutely.
the couple that was on last week, the Neesmiths, talked about their love story. And they talked about getting through those hard parts, enduring, basically is what they talked about, enduring through those situations.
You know what I love
and
about that?
trying, yes.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
What I love about it, both sides owned their part of the
Yes.
dysfunction.
Awesome.
And
Yes.
it was just an awesome testimony to kind of see, well, this is what I did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And owning that each, not
Yes.
just she did or he did, but, well, I did this part wrong, which caused that.
Mhm.
And then their response to that, and I could have responded differently, but then I would chose to do it this way. I think that's a tremendous testimony of their story,
Yes.
and they're to be commended. I'm very happy
Yes.
that they are back together, and understanding that everyone is not happy. There are many which kind of dealing with this the endurance to love again, taking the challenge to understand that your marriage, to my marriage in particular,
Mhm.
is it's something that's your testimony. That's what you're building,
Right.
and it may not
Right.
look like anyone else's, but do you have the courage to endure through your marriage?
Your marriage,
And
right?
everyone has a critique or understanding of it. And I think for us, even now, our endurance is, do you have the courage and can you endure meeting each other all over again? You're in
Mhm.
a different season. Kids are
Absolutely.
gone, you're
Mhm.
older, empty nest.
Right.
It's like we had to endure this.
Reacquaint.
Yes. And the pressure now is not external.
Mhm.
It's the discomfort. And I remember you said about 3 4 weeks, no, about 2 months ago,
Mhm.
you're like, I got to get used to you. I got to get used to having you around again.
Mhm.
And it was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, I mean, I'm used to you, but like usually you're not that attentive, or you
Mhm.
didn't respond like this. It'd be like, oh wow, whoa, okay. And
Yes.
then right now I have to have and I have to endure the adjustment. Like,
Mhm.
let me adjust to you.
Right.
Nothing bad, nothing negative. Just let me adjust to this. And I
Right.
think there are so many areas when you talk about the courage to endure under that pressure.
Mhm.
The pressure does not necessarily have to be another person,
Right.
infidelity or proclivity or an issue. It could just be the endurance, the pressure of, okay, the time. I have to take time. I got to slow down.
Mhm.
Why am I in such a rush for it to be this, or how I thought an empty nested moment would be? Like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, let me get adjusted to it because I'm really not used to having no one in the house. Like,
Right.
oh, wow.
So this it's very common. Very common. I have to introduce you to the new version of me,
Mhm.
and I am being introduced to the new version of you. In an imperfect world,
And I'm
we're
perfect. Just so we will make sure we clarify this. In this situation, I'm definitely
my
perfect,
God.
and I am enduring so much from what she is not.
So these versions have to come back together, and we are enduring through that. I think it's exciting. Endurance. It speaks to unpleasant situations or challenging situations.
Mhm.
But in our case, I am excited.
I am.
Excited, and I hope that we can kind of switch it around and look at it as an element of excitement instead of a dreadful situation.
Mhm.
As we talked last week to the Denise Smiths, they were excited after all is said and done, after they hashed through a lot of the breach and the problems. They were excited to be back together. Their family was excited
Mhm.
to have them back together. And they're going into their new season together. And the
Mhm.
most important thing that I learned about the interview was that they learned so much about each other, even in the separation. They
Wow.
learned so much about each other, and they
Okay.
have a better understanding of each other. So going back into that love relationship is, they can see the benefits of it now.
Mhm.
The
And
benefits.
that's
So that's
courage.
good. Yeah, that is
Courage to
courage.
endure that
Mhm.
and be able to go. And I think that that's a great place and segue to kind of really say and kind of tell everyone that's watching,
Mhm.
anyone could quit.
Anybody. So
Anyone could
easy.
quit. I mean, everyone loves a reset button. I
Yeah.
kind of share that and I push it quite a bit
Mhm.
and preaching and sharing, but anyone could start again. And even with everything that's going on in the
Mm.
church ministry right now, it is courage to endure
Courage to
under what?
endure.
Under all of this pressure,
Yes.
all of the opinions, the streets are talking,
Mhm.
the judge is talking, the lawyer is talking,
Everybody
everyone's
has an
talking,
opinion.
everyone has an opinion, and the question becomes, Kenneth, Cathedral of the Holy Spirit, leadership, do you have the courage to endure under
Pressure.
pressure. Yeah, yeah, and that's courage. And because I mean, for me, let it be known, the easiest thing is, oh, you got it, you guys win.
Mhm.
Take the building around, keep on property, and let me find something that we can afford, that's inexpensive, and with all these empty churches and places and locations that we can go to, it'll be easy to hit the reset button or just leave,
Mhm.
just move, start in another location, seek God's face, and take shake the dust from my feet and
Yes.
move to another location.
That is an option.
It is
That's
a
an
very
option.
real
That's an option, and
and
it's real,
yes,
you know, and it's tempting,
hmm
you know. But
yeah,
what does God want?
what's God want? And I
What
think
that's
that's
the
it.
bottom line. What's really in what does God have in your future for you? And are you strong enough to get there? Are you strong enough to endure in order to get on the other side
Mhm.
of the challenge?
Yes,
So we would like to encourage anyone out there to join me as I discuss and exhaust this subject matter, courageous endurance, mustering up the courage to endure through your love situations and your circumstances that you may be in. And this is all pointing to loving again, the courage to love again.
oh
Because
God,
what? Love
patient.
is patient. Join us next time.